we have been discussing policies which have been provided in the education system and their impact on the education system. This was something which we have been discussing in the series of policy in Indian school education system. Continuing with the same series, friends, today we shall be discussing National Education Policy 2020. Friends, now this is not a new name because lot of discussions are going on National Education Policy 2020. It is being analyzed and evaluated by educationists, by students, by teachers, by various people, just to assess that what kind of transformation or change it is going to bring to the education system. Friends, NEP 2020 is supposed to be transformational. How is it going to be transformational? How it is going to be different from the previous policy? Friend, just to retract back to the NPE 1986 which we discussed in our last lecture. How this policy is different from 1986 policy, NPE 1986 policy. It is different because in NPE the central agenda was to see to it that the equity is maintained in the education system. It was basically concerned more about providing equal opportunities to everybody, particularly to the disadvantaged group. And as far as NEP is concerned, NEP 2020 is concerned, this policy is aiming at bringing together the science and technology and the culture. It is also looking at the India from the perspective of developed nation. It has tried to cover what kind of expectation from the education system would be there in after 30 years or 40 years. So, friends, this education policy is transformational, as I have already said, because it has tried to envisage most of the things which we are facing today as well as we are supposed to face today. It has talked about how education should be transformed so that it become global in nature as well as it adhere to our civilization, it adheres to our cultural values. So, it has brought together the IT along with the cultural parameters. That is why in this policy we have talked about that how Indian languages are important from the perspective of education system and why and how they should be emphasized by educationists, by the state government, central government and various bodies which are involved in implementation of NEP 2020. So, friends, to begin the lecture on NEP 2020, first of all, let us try to find out that what has gone into, what is the background of NEP 2020. Friends, it has covered 2 lakh villages and 350 districts, 3050 districts, 29 states and 8 UT. The suggestions has been sought from the whole India. 26 lakh suggestions were sought. On the basis of that, this policy has been finalized. From the angle of the fact that now the student suicide rate has increased because of the stress which education is giving. That is why through this policy we have tried to replace stressful education with joyful education. Evaluation pattern has been questioned, which is based upon memorization, and new evaluation pattern has been introduced so that the real assessment of the skill, the real assessment of the parameters which are enjoyable to the students, which are relevant to the students, they can be assessed. So, friends, apart from these background, there are other points also which I would like to touch upon, that in this policy there has been a discussion about multi-entry and multi-exit. What does multi-entry and multi-exit means? Multi-entry means the student would be allowed to exit the education system, and on the basis of the credits the student has earned, he can again re-enter the education system in the same university or same college as well as different college. That is why it is multi-entry and multi-exit. That means it is not important that the student would have to enroll again in the same college or a same university or same school. The credit which has been earned by the student, they can be utilized by him in the different system as well. Apart from that, at the secondary level, students have been provided choice of subjects. Here the policy makers have tried to get away with the division between science and humanities. They have tried to bring arts with science so that students also realize that the subjects are not being taught for the perspective of the subject, for the fact that they have to memorize or understand the subject. Subjects are being taught to the students so that they can be utilized by them in their life. So, there are going to be more choice of subjects at the secondary level, and there have been emphasis on self evaluation as well as peer evaluation and evaluation by the teacher. Friends, as all of us know, presently the evaluation is very systematic and it is being done by the centralized bodies or the governance which has been authorized to do the evaluation, and due to that there are times that the real evaluation does not go. The student is assessed by the fact that what he has understood and what he has memorized. To narrate a small story, now what we are doing in our evaluation system is, there was a jungle. In the jungle there was a school, a very posh and very good school. And most of the animals wanted that their children should go to that school. All the animals got their children enrolled in that school, and when the first semester result came, most of the animals found that their ward had failed in the parameter of climbing the tree. The elephant, when he found that his baby elephant has failed in that parameter, he thrashed him. Similarly, the giraffe was also very angry and annoyed with his child. Nobody tried to find out that whether the parameter for which the child was assessed, he or she is meant for that parameter or not. So, all animals, they were very angry with their children and they were going through the forest. It was noticed by a tree. A tree asked, "Why all of you are annoyed with your children? I can see the sullen faces of your children as well as I can see that you are very angry. What happened at school?" They said, "Our children have failed and monkey's child has topped." Then the tree asked them that what was the parameter of assessment for which your children have failed and the child of the monkey has passed. They said, "Climbing the tree." The banyan tree told them, when you are sending the child to the school where they are being assessed for the skill which is not natural to them, which they are not supposed to learn, then it is natural that they will fail. The problem is not with your children, but the problem is with the system, with the school. The problem is with you, that you are trying to assess your children for the skills which even you have not mastered, which you will also fail in the skill in which you want your children to pass. Thereby the animals understood that they are evaluating the children on the wrong skill. So, friends, I would like to say that the present evaluation system is similar to that. We are evaluating all children on the same skills. And what is that skill? That skill is to memorize. If the child is good at memorizing, the child is rated as the topper, as a good student. Friends, this policy has tried to get away from that evaluation system, that assessment system. It has tried to do justice to the children as well as education system. Now let us talk about school education system, because this policy has been divided into four divisions, and first of the division, out of the four parts, first part which we will like to take up is school education. What are the key points of school education? 10 plus 2 pattern is replaced with 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. We will try to get into the detail what is 5, what is 3 and what is 3 and what is 4. Foundation stage is characterized by 3 years of pre-primary education till first and second class. Preparatory stage, which is 3 years, has been classified for third, fourth and fifth class. Middle stage, which is again for the 3 years, is for 6, 7 and 8 class. So, friends, with this we cover 5 plus 3 plus 3, and the fourth is the secondary stage, which is for 4 years, that is class 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. The school education system has also expanded RTE. RTE, which was characterizing only the age group of 6 to 18. Now it is going to cover age group 3 to 18. That means right to education will be with the students who are in the age group 3 to 18. That also makes it necessary for the civilized society to ensure that the children are there in the school till they are 18 years of old. So what policy has tried to touch upon is that the secondary education, the senior secondary education becomes important as well as necessary for the students, because friends, till 18 years the child is supposed to do his class 12th. So, here we will have most of the children doing class 12th, passing class 12th because of the provision of RTE. In addition to the midday meals, breakfast has been added. The policy has also tried to discuss that how to dropout rates should be controlled. So, reducing dropout rates has also been at the center of this policy. It has also tried to work upon that. We will discuss in detail about that. To go further, discussing the key points of the school education system, the early childhood education is beginning from 3 years onwards, and it has also tried to ensure equal opportunity to all, that is females, SC, ST, etc. It has also talked about pool of resources. What is pool of resources? In this policy, the formally those who are not engaged in the education system as teachers, the pool will be created for those educated young people who might be there in some different professions, but can be used as resources for the education system. That pool would be maintained by various governments, state governments, district governments as well as the school management, and that pool will be utilized to ensure that education does not suffer. So, thereby the community involvement will improve and increase. This policy has also worked upon recruitment of teachers, particularly the deployment and deputation of teachers. The promotion of the teacher has been ensured in the same school, because in the previous policies it was made mandatory, in the system it was made mandatory that usually to get the promotion the teacher has to leave the school and go to some other school. So, this policy is trying to ensure that the teachers who are recruited, they would also be going for in-service training through different parameters, through different utilizing IT. They can be going through seminars and workshops, global as well as Indian, and they will have to enhance their education skill as well as their teaching skill. Apart from that, the teachers promotion can take place in the same school itself in which they are teaching. So, this thing has been controlled in this particular policy. At the secondary stage, as we talked before also, their students have been provided more subject choices, and semester system has been introduced. Rather than having an annual system or half yearly system, a semester system has been introduced at the secondary stage. The level of subjects would also be having more branches. That means, not only just the subject choices will be made more open, but also level of subjects would also be increased. The role of the boards, that is the different boards, the state boards and the central boards, shall be restricted as far as assessment and evaluation of children is concerned. So, thereby scope of improvement will also be given to the students. How the students will be given scope of improvement? By having examination twice a year. So, the students can also improve their academic as well as go for various subjects which they are interested in, as well as they will be evaluated for their level of subjects. The training of teachers has been made mandatory for 50 hours. So, teacher will have to undergo training for 50 hours. That has become a mandatory part in this policy. There has been discussion on pedagogy and curriculum also. E-content shall be introduced, so that the students utilize their phone, their PCs and their laptops more, and they understand that how the e-content is to be filtered to reach certain conclusions, to understand skills, to utilize that information, so that that information can be transformed into knowledge and further into skill. So, there is going to be more work on e-content. There would be virtual labs. Virtual lab has been again and again talked about in this policy. Diksha, which is very important word which has been introduced in this policy, that means digital infrastructure for knowledge and sharing. Education system, particularly the school education system, will be evolving Diksha. So, when the digital infrastructure will be in place, then naturally all the students would be able to get advantage of the e-content. Then there is going to be more emphasis on DTH channels and more emphasis on utilizing smartphones for academic improvement as well as skill learning. Central advisory boards shall be created as to advise the academicians for implementation as well as after the implementation. Another important thing which has been and again stressed in NEP 2020 is environmental education. There is going to be stress on environmental education and knowledge of India. What is knowledge of India? Knowledge of India, friends, means that the student should be knowing what India is. They has to understand that what is the culture of India. They have to understand different languages. More languages should be introduced to students, so that they master more languages, so that they will be able to improve the languages as well as the learning, as it has been emphasized by various educationists before also, and in this NEP 2020 also this point has been raised, that the children who are till in the age group of 1 to 6, they can learn better in their mother tongue. That is why it is very important that mother tongue is emphasized. That is why bilingual teaching has to be introduced. Three language formula will not be replaced, it will stay as it is. But the language, the Indian languages would be emphasized in the education system as a result of NEP 2020. This is something which has been emphasized in NEP 2020. The separation of streams as we usually have, that it is humanities, then it is commerce, and then we have science. This is going to be erased as the result of NEP 2020 implementation. The streams will be merged in such a way that a child who is studying chemistry can also be studying art education. The child who is studying music can also be understanding economics. So, more options will be available as far as subjects are concerned to children. Vocational education will also be introduced. That means the children, particularly at the higher and the secondary level, will be asked to go through vocational education. They will have vocational education open to them, so that the skills can be improved for the children who have decided to go out of education system after passing the school. So, what they can do is that they can take up vocational education in school itself. Sports will also be emphasized because sports usually brings children together. So, sports is to be emphasized and it is to be used, the playfulness has to be used for learning. So, education system has to be rewritten, revived in such a manner that sports, co-curricular, extracurricular activities are utilized more, because they are supposed to be more friendly. These type of activities are supposed to be more friendly, which children enjoy. They should be utilized for the children of all age group for their learning. So, this is something which has been discussed in NEP 2020. It has also tried to emphasize on the tribal population. It has also talked about the tribal population languages. So, it is trying to cover up the languages which are being covered by tribal population. Then it has also talked about national curriculum framework by NCERT and the aim of NEP 2020. Friends, this is a very important remark. By 2030, there should be 100% literacy and numeracy achieved. So, this is the target of NEP. We have been discussing various policies which have been given by educationists and the government for education system. We had discussed in our previous lectures how those policies had an impact on the Indian education system. In our last lecture, we started discussing about NEP 2020. Friends, if you recall, in that lecture, we talked about school education, how school education has been discussed by NEP 2020. To recall, in NEP 2020, the aim is to have 100% literacy in 2030. So, 2030 has been specified as a target for achieving 100% literacy and numeracy. So, friends, carrying on our lecture, we would like to discuss again how school education system has been touched upon of NEP 2020. So, continuing the lecture, friends, in this NEP 2020, there is something which has been introduced, is that the pupil teacher ratio needs to be decreased, Presently, as all of us know, that usually pupil teacher ratio is 40:1. So, NEP 2020 has remarked that pupil teacher ratio should not be more than 25:1. That means one teacher should be teaching maximum 25 students. Then there would be walking groups and cycling groups. Why walking groups and cycling groups? Because education system is not something which is to be taught inside the class. This has been realized by NEP 2020. So, the education, the learning can take place even in the walking groups. It can take place even in the cycling groups. So, the education has to be touched upon through sports, extracurricular activities, curricular activities, having walking groups or cycling groups. The most important thing which has been made mandatory in NEP 2020 is that the counseling has to be there, particularly for the secondary students. So, it will be mandatory for the school to have a counselor. The school will also be required to have a trained social workers. The social workers as well as counselors can be picked up from the community. They can be part and parcel of the schools as well, like they can be providing their services to different schools which are nearby, but the counseling is mandatory. The students should not miss on the counseling. Open and distance education, this is a point, friends, which we need to look into. Open and distance education has particularly been touched upon by NEP 2020, and very important and special emphasis has been given to open and distance education by NEP 2020. It has been realized that open and distance education can be tool for increasing GER, gross enrollment. For increasing gross enrollment, it is very important that open and distance educations are re-looked into. That means it will not be just program wise, it will be rather course wise, credit wise, and student can have education in any remote corner of the country as well. So, the child who is staying in some remote corner of the country will also have access to the same quality of education which a child living in some metro is having. This is at the center of NEP 2020. It has also emphasized that the special educators has to be there for Divyang as well as for the students of special needs. So, special educators has to be provided by the schools. To provide special educators, what the schools can do is that the teachers who are already staying or already teaching in the schools, they can also go for training themselves, learning special education through different modes, either the distance education mode or the regular universities or the MOOCs. MOOCs has been specially emphasized in NEP 2020. Another important thing which has been touched upon is that the parents have to be trained. How the parents shall be trained and why the parents shall be trained. Parents have to be trained, friends, because parents also should realize that they are responsible for education of their children. It is very important that the parents are also involved in the education of their children. How can they be involved? Because usually the problem which is faced by the grassroots level officers and grassroots level academicians as well as the school level authorities is that the parents don't understand importance of school. They can not play an important role in school management committee. That is why NEP 2020 has realized that the parents shall not only be playing an important role in the education of their children, but also be more participative, as well as they should be trained to become part of school management committee, so that they can play an important role, they can play active role in the management of the school as well as management of the education system for the children. And there has also been discussion about providing special hostels for SC and ST. So, friends, this policy has not left equity and equality concept. This policy has also discussed that the quality parameters of the school education system are improved upon. The quantity, the quantum of students is also touched upon by controlling dropout rate, so that the children getting literacy and numeracy are more in numbers in comparison to the previous years. Similarly, the equity and equality is also touched upon. There should be special hostels for SC, ST and women. So, these are the things which have been touched upon particularly in the school education by NEP 2020. Friends, now to do some detailing of the points which we have touched upon. The key points I have already discussed with you. Now, let us talk about that what all it has come up, so that we can understand that how NEP 2020 is going to revolutionize the education system. School education system in part 1, NEP 2020 has given special importance to early education care because that has been accepted as the foundation of learning. It has also tried to touch upon foundational literacy and numeracy as an urgent and necessary prerequisite to learning. Friends, these are the parts of part 1 school education system. First is early childhood care and education. Second is foundational literacy and numeracy. This has been regarded as an urgent and necessary prerequisite to learning. Third is curtailing dropout rates and ensuring universal access to education at all level. Fourth is how curriculum and pedagogy in the school shall be made holistic, integrated, enjoyable and engaging. Fifth part which they have discussed in part 1, which is on school education, is on teachers, about their recruitment, about their deployment, about their training. Sixth point is about making education equitable and inclusive, learning for all. So, this is the point which we were referring to, that is equity and equality of education has to be maintained in India, which is very diverse from the geography point of view, from the cultural point of view, as well as from the language point of view, and from also there is division as far as the monetary thing is concerned. That means this NEP 2020 has tried to cover that the education for all has to be ensured. The quality of education should also be same to everybody, because in the previous policies we have not been able to control the private. We came out with the PPP model, that is private public partnership. As a result, we had many private people coming with education organization, may it be at the level of school, may it be level of the colleges, but there the government has not been able to control the education system. That means the quality of education system as well as the making education available, the same quality of education available to every child irrespective of his economic status, that we have not been able to ensure. So, through NEP 2020, the academician, the educationists who were involved in the policy framing, they have tried to cover that the inclusive education should be there as well as equitable education should be there, and learning for all of the same quality for every child. So, another important thing which has been touched upon in the school education system is that efficient resourcing and effective governance through school complex and clusters has to be ensured. Usually it is found that due to lack of resources, the school complexes and clusters fail. In fact, it has been found that in the huge school complexes there are at times only one teacher attending to 200 students or 500 students also. The schools does not have ample infrastructure even to the level of having toilets. So, this is something which has been realized by NEP 2020, and they have tried to have the partnership of community, as well as have tried to touch that the diversions of funds should be there, so that the resourcing can be done, the efficient resourcing can be done, so that the effective governance can be ensured for school complexes and clusters. By effective governance, what NEP 2020 means is that the school shall have not just the efficient educationists and academicians involved in it, but the school should be able to deliver what it is supposed to. That means the students which are coming out of the school shall be learned as well as happy. So, these are the two things which have been touched upon by NEP 2020. Another point which has been discussed in school education part 1 of NEP 2020 is setting standards for accreditation for school education. There has been introduction of a body which will be controlling the standards as well as accrediting the school education system, so that the quality of the schools can be controlled as well as the equity can be maintained at the level of school education system. So, friends, getting back to the first point, which was about the early childhood care. Friends, about 85% of the children cumulative brain develops before the age of 6. So, as far as early childhood care is concerned, from the education point of view, it should ideally consist of flexible, multifaceted, multi-level, play-based, activity-based and inquiry-based learning. This is something which has been incorporated in NEP 2020, that ECCE shall try to develop with the help of NCERT the teaching material and the learning material which shall be play-based, which shall be activity-based, which shall be inquiry-based, and which should not be rote memory-based. Alphabet, languages, numbers and countings have to be stressed upon. The color, shapes, indoor-outdoor plays, puzzles and logical thinking and problem solving through drawing, painting, another visual arts, craft, drama, doing with hands, music, movement, they should be at the center of the education for ECCE, for the children who are in the age group of 3 to 6. Early childhood care should be centered upon all those subjects, and how they have to be taught? They have to be taught in the play-based activities mode, inquiry-based learning, and the education should be very flexible and multifaceted. The books which are to be developed shall be developed keeping in view that the children in the age group of 0 to 3 have the different perspective. Similarly, the children who are in the age group of 3 to 8, they have different requirement. At 3 to 8, generic numeracy can be introduced, the generic language can be introduced, alphabets can be transformed into sentences, as well as the basic writing skill can be introduced. Friends, in these policies, Anganwadi centers have been merged with the formal education sector. That means, it has been incorporated that the Anganwadi system which is responsible for universal access to ECCE shall be strengthened by improving the quality of the Anganwadi teachers, as well as providing more resources, and it shall become part and parcel of the school system. That means, the child who is there part of the Anganwadi centers can straight away move to the school, and he should not feel alienated when the child moves from Anganwadi to the formal school. So, they should become part and parcel, and Anganwadi teachers, the workers who are involved in taking care of children in Anganwadi, they should be made more better teachers. In fact, they should be introduced with the learning concepts also. They should understand that from Anganwadi the child is going to go for preparatory classes or Bal Vatika, that is before class 1, and it is the responsibility of the Anganwadi to prepare the children for the preparatory classes, and the education at Anganwadi as well as Bal Vatika will be primarily play based. Learning shall be focusing on cognitive, affective and psychomotor abilities and early literacy and numeracy only. Meal programs will also be enhanced to such a manner that the health checkup as well as meal programs will be monitored and available for preparatory classes students of Anganwadi as well as primary school. So, health checkup which were restricted to Anganwadi only, they will be given to the children who shall be in the preparatory classes as well as Bal Vatika also, and similarly Anganwadi children will also have the meal program. And as far as meal is concerned, that also has been looked into by NEP 2020, that in case the children cannot have good meals or the meals prepared because of having problem as far as resources are concerned, then it will be responsibility of the school and Anganwadi to ensure that the children get nutritious meal by availing fruits, by providing them milk. Those things can be provided to the children so that the health of the children can be strengthened. As far as Anganwadi workers are concerned, they would be trained in the systematic efforts for the pedagogical framework which shall be developed by NCERT. So, friends, for the first time the Anganwadi workers have also been brought into the framework of NCERT, and there would be continuation. So, no part has been left out, there is no gap in this. There should be a systematic progression of the child from one phase to another, from Anganwadi to Bal Vatika and to the other phases also. This has been ensured in NEP 2020. In fact, as far as the early childhood care is concerned, the curriculum shall be developed by Ministries of HRD, Women and Child Development, Health and Family Welfare and Tribal Affairs. So, all these ministries will have to come together to develop education curriculum, and a special joint task force shall be constituted to develop and implement the education curriculum for early childhood care. Friends, why only Education Ministry is not given this responsibility? The reason being, as far as the children in the age group of 3 to 8 is concerned, the women and child development is also equally responsible, and health and family welfare will have to look at the health of the children, because it is a saying that healthy child is able to develop more in a much better manner. If the child is not having nutritional diet, then the health of the child will be affected, and if health is being affected, the physical and mental health is being affected, then that is going to have an impact on the education of the child. Why tribal affair has been brought into the made responsible for the education of the children? Because tribal affairs understand the needs and the requirement of the children who are living in tribes, and accordingly the school education system can be developed. And apart from that, friends, we discussed in our previous lecture that the tribal languages also need to be taught, because they are the resources, the stories, the knowledge which has been there in our tribes, that is slowly and steadily disappearing. So, NEP 2020 has taken into cognizance the fact that the children who are born in the tribes shall be taught in the manner that they understand that their culture is also beneficial for their education, the culture is beneficial for their life ahead, and the languages which they speak in their tribe is not useless in day to day life, is not useless from the perspective of education system. So, these things have become part and parcel of the education system as far as NEP 2020 is concerned. Friends, foundational literacy and numeracy is the second point which has been covered by part 1 by NEP 2020 policy framers in part 1 of school education. The highest priority of education system shall be to achieve the universal foundational literacy and numeracy in primary schools by 2025. So, primary shall be attained by 2025 and by 2030 then literacy and numeracy for secondary education shall also be attained. So, this has been kept in the center for NEP 2020. It has been, friends, we talked about Diksha. This Diksha has been covered in the foundational literacy and numeracy. What is foundational literacy and numeracy? That the child who is out of ECC, the child has to become literate and shall be understand the 3 R's which we usually talk about, the basic arithmetic, the basic reading and basic writing shall be understandable to the children. For that, Diksha has been introduced. Diksha means digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing. So, high quality resources on foundational literacy and numeracy will be made available through Diksha, and Diksha shall be available to children of even who are staying in some remote areas, children who are studying in government schools or the private school. The locations where, as we already discussed, that the hot meals are not possible, the remote areas where the hot meals are not possible, the simple but nutritious meal has to be provided. The example has also been given by NEP 2020 frameworkers that groundnuts and chana can be provided with jaggery, or local fruits can be provided because they are the best nutritional they have the best nutritional value as far as and they are also fulfilling as far as food is concerned. They are quite fulfilling for the body also. So, they can replace the nutritious meal if that cannot be cooked in some remote area. A national book promotion policy is also to be formulated due to the result of NEP 2020. For formulating a national book promotion policy, the initiatives will be undertaken, and it will be mandatory that the books across geographies, languages of all levels and genres is available, and the children have access to it, as well as quality of those books is maintained. It is very important as far as NEP 2020 is concerned. On the basis of NEP 2020, the second step will be having a policy on national book promotion. The third important aspect which the frameworkers have covered in part 1 of school education is how to curtail dropout rates at all levels. Friends, when we talk about GER for grades 6 to 8, it has been found to be 90.9%, while for grades 9 to 10 and 11 to 12 it reduces to 79.3 and 56.5% respectively. From these statistics we can conclude that dropout rate is maximum at the secondary level. So, friends, the frameworkers who have given NEP 2020 has also tried to cover that how the grade 9 to 10 and 11 and 12 shall be motivated to stay in the school. For this, RTE has been extended to the age group of 18. That is why because the target is to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio, not just in the preschool but also at the secondary level by 2030. That is why, to curtail the dropout rate, the vocational education is to be introduced. At what level? At preschool level itself, and it can continue till grade 12. And to ensure that the children understand importance of education, counselors and well-trained social workers needs to be connected to the school complexes and the teachers who are teaching over there. There is also provision for trained and qualified social workers from the civic society, or as well as from the NGOs, as well as Department of Social Justice and Empowerment and government functionaries who are dealing with empowering persons with disabilities at the state and district level. They should also be associated with the school. So, this is also a point which has been covered in NEP 2020. Responsibility has been given to NIOS and state open school to offer the programs in addition to the present programs, so that the different levels can be covered, because that is the only way to control the education, to control the drop rate in the school level, particularly at the secondary level. A, B and C levels equivalent to grades 3, 5 and 8 of the formal school system is to be introduced by NIOS and then state open schools. Secondary education programs which are equivalent to 10th and 12th shall be made vocational education oriented. There has to be more emphasis on vocational education, on the programs, on the adult literacy and life enrichment programs. So, this responsibility has been given to NIOS as well as other organizations, the state open schools, who are responsible for educating children who are out of the formal education system, but they can have access to non-formal education system. Friends, to involve community as well as alumni, database is to be maintained. So, this is something which we covered in our last lecture also, that this policy has talked about maintaining the database of literate volunteers as well as retired scientists, government, semi-government employees, alumni and educators. Why it has done? That database can be utilized for using the people who are part and parcel of that database as resource person to strengthen the education system, which is in dire need of strengthening as far as the statistics are concerned, which we looked at, that the dropout rate is very high at the secondary level. Another feature which the frameworkers have covered in the school education is about the curriculum and pedagogy. This is something we touched upon in our previous lecture also, that 10 plus 2 has been replaced with the design of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. What is this 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4? 5, which is a foundation stage, that can also be split into 3 plus 2. That means the children who are going to Anganwadi and the preschool, the primary school, they will be covered under this 5. That means Anganwadi, then class 1, then and class 2. So, both of them will cover ages 3 to 8. Then the next stage will be preparatory stage, which is going to continue for 3 years. This covers grades 3 to 5 and the age group 8 to 11. So, this is 5 plus 3 and next plus 3 is the middle stage, grades 6, 7, 8, which covers ages 11, 12, 11 to 14. So, this is the middle stage which covered these 3 grades and these 3 age group running from 11 to 14. Then there is secondary stage which is for 4 years having grades 9 to 12, 9 and 10 in the first phase and 11 and 12 in the second phase, and the age group is 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. So, from 14 to 18 the child who is in the middle stage will be 14 as far as NEP 2020 is concerned. So, in the secondary stage the children who are either 15 or maybe 14 will enter the secondary stage and stay there for 4 years. All these stages have been covered under RTE also as a result of NEP 2020. This means that the civic society and the government has to ensure that the children till they are 18 from the age group of attaining from the child attaining age of 3 till the child is 18, he or she has to stay in the school. So, friends, what is the pedagogy? We have talked about what is the systematic distribution of the school education system. As far as pedagogy is concerned, the preparatory stage which will comprise of 3 years will be depending upon playing, discovery and activity based education model, and foundational stage will try to incorporate some light textbooks as well as aspects of more formal but interactive classroom learning. Holistic development, cognitive development, building character and 21st century skills, that would be at the center of school education. So, child has to develop holistically, cognitive development has to be the fullest, along with building the character, the moral values of the children, and also developing the 21st century skill. So, this is the main aim of the pedagogical aim of school education system from pre-nursery, or we can say from Anganwadi to class 12th. Friends, the secondary stage which will comprise of 4 stages of multidisciplinary study or building on the subject oriented pedagogical and curriculum style of the middle stage has been also worked upon, that the critical thinking should be going into it, and there it should be more flexible and the student shall be provided more choice of subjects. So, friends, in our next lecture